Welcome to Saving Us, where we discuss relationships in marriage, family, and beyond. Relationships are hard work and should be a priority. These discussions are here to help you navigate the waters of insecurity and frustration and hopefully guide you to a place of peaceful fulfillment in your own relationships. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode. I am Deetra here, and this is my lovely co-host,
Michael.
In today's episode, we're going to continue our discussion about blended families. This is part 2. Are blended families soups or salads? And how do they affect the children? Now, in our previous episode on blended families, we stated that step-family studies suggest about 60 to 70% of marriages involving children from a previous relationship fail. And since about 46% of marriages are what we consider to be nuclear families, that means 54% of families are some kind of blended situation. This episode was recorded a couple of days ago, so we're going to jump right into the conversation. We hope you enjoy it, and what we want you to do is to make a comment on your experience of being in a blended family. Well, we are welcoming our oldest girls, Saniqua and Shayla. Hello, ladies.
What's going on, girls?
Hello.
They hail from Columbus, Ohio, and somewhere outside of Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston.
What's the name of your town, Shayla?
Right now it's Shirley, Massachusetts.
Shirley, Massachusetts. All right. And I have 2 grandbabies that I never see because they decide to live all the way in Massachusetts, and I can't get to know them because they're not around. But anyway, okay, we're going to keep going. Number 1, our first question for the girls is, what effect did growing up in a blended family have on the parent-child relationship? Who wants to jump in first? Well, the relationship between the step parents, me, and you all. What effect did growing up in our family have on us? Say what you want, because I'm full grown. I can take it. Go ahead.
Do you want to start, Shayla, or no?
Sure. So at least for me personally, I don't think that it had as big of an effect on me specifically as it did for like Saniqua. So for example, I had no problems with you like growing up, Deetra. Like, you were amazing. I still call you mom. Like, I don't think but also I don't remember that much because like as an adult I feel like I see things a little bit differently, but I don't think that I ever like had a problem with like you or anything. I know that I had some like issues with Dad. Just the whole like idea that he left and went to start a new family. Maybe we weren't like good enough kind of thing. But I think that also has a lot to do with like age. So like as I became an adult, I was able to come around. So I'm gonna let Saniqua go more into it because I think she probably has more to say about it than I do.
Okay.
I have. Yeah, I do have a lot to say, but on this meeting, I don't know how much I'm going to say. But you mentioned, calling just your mom and everything, and I know I was kind of conflicted for a while. I'd feel comfortable with it, and then I wouldn't feel comfortable with it, which kind of brings me into the effect that I think was on me for growing up in a blended family. Well, there's a couple things I learned. Okay. During that whole maturation process, like I learned to wait, hold on. Oh, okay. So the biggest thing was if things don't go the way you want them to, life is still going to go on. That was the biggest lesson I learned. And I started to think about what I wanted from life and what I thought family meant. So that was, I guess, the biggest effect on me is growing up. I learned that even if you don't get things your way, life is still going to keep on going.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking about you. Both of you said something that made me remember. For me, when you guys were there, one of the things that at the time I thought would be a good thing is if you called Deetra mom, while you were there, knowing that she wasn't your biological mother. What was that fancy word you used earlier? I don't know what that word was you used. Yeah, nuclear. Yeah, that wasn't your nuclear family. I don't know. That's one of those big words. I don't use it. She wasn't your biological mom. In my mind, for some reason, probably because of my personality, I thought, well, that would probably be a good thing, to help us
Like bond and get
together.
closer.
Yeah, but it took me a while, but I didn't realize at the time that could be a difficult thing, and it should be a duh, but it wasn't for me for some reason that could be a difficult thing to do. Like with what you mentioned, Shayla. Kind of the feelings that you'd have of Dad left and started another family. It didn't hit me till much later. That could be a difficult thing. And then it was like, well, what do you call her?
Yeah.
And so anyway.
Right. Yeah. So that was a big part of my conflict. It was just like, okay, so if I'm not gonna call her mom, what am I gonna call her? Like I didn't.
Especially because
Go ahead.
Especially because like calling okay, especially because calling at that age, calling an adult by their first name seemed disrespectful,
right.
and then calling mom also didn't seem quite right. And so it's just like, what's the word to use?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That could be difficult.
Yeah. And I remember we played around with Mama D.
Yeah.
And that kind of worked too, but it still felt awkward.
Yeah. That's true.
I was going to say something, but then I forgot. Oh, I know what it was. I always thought too that it was disrespectful of your mother for you to call me mom. I always felt funny because I was like, they have a mom.
Right.
And I don't know that I would want, somebody else, my kids to call somebody else mom if I'm not dead, if I'm there, So I always felt weird because of that.
Yeah. It's a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
Right. And that kind of answers my, it kind of goes along with my answer that I had to, how does it affect your relationship with the child and the biological mom?
Yeah. Right.
Or the biological
Go
parent.
That, yeah.
I feel like in a way that little inconvenience and that little nuance in our relationship and over here in the blended family helped me get closer to my biological mom because
really?
You know what I mean? I thought about the same thing, like, well, is it respectful to you to call someone else mom? And then I started to understand my relationship with my mother a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Like it was a deeper understanding there. And so that was I guess it was a tough, challenging effect, but it ended up being a positive effect.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I got more presents at Christmas, so I was happy.
There you go. Hey.
All right.
I got more presents.
And then I got open to, or I felt more free or liberated to explore what kind of relationship that you, Deetra, and I could develop, because since it wasn't your typical traditional relationship, I felt like it was an opportunity to create a whole new relationship that could be on our terms. But I was always scared to do it. So.
Oh, okay.
But it's, I feel like I was free to establish a new relationship with you, and it could be any way we wanted it to. Like it didn't have to be, you know what I mean, the typical stepmother stepchild relationship. We can make it whatever we want.
Right. And I think knowing that it doesn't have to be typical. I came from this paradigm of I did not want to be the evil stepmother that we see in the Disney movies or whatever, the father, mother, whoever, in all the movies, everything. One of the non-biological parents is like from the devil. I did not want to be that way, but you know what? I think for me, I allowed fear to control the relationship. So much fear of not wanting to be rejected or, just doing things such this way, because I just was afraid that something would be wrong. And anytime you lead, this is from experience now going through it, anytime you lead with fear, the results are not going to be what they should be, Right. So I would suggest for the future of anybody contemplating, anybody listening out there, have some family counseling before you get married if you have children.
That would have been a great idea. I think
Yeah,
that
if you come in with children, you guys go to a counselor and learn how to discuss this stuff. I guess it depends on how old the kids are, but if your kids are old enough to express themselves and what they're feeling, take that year before and probably a couple of years after you get married to work those things out, and it'll make your life easier, I think.
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely.
Because I'm talking a lot. Because you don't know
It's your podcast.
you don't know
Right.
what to ask. Like if you come into a relationship and you don't have kids, you have no idea what to ask. You don't know what you're going to get into. So, but if you go to counseling or something, that counselor will help you, can bring up questions that you probably haven't thought of. So that's why I say it's a good idea.
Shayla, what about you between you and your mom? Did that affect your relationship at all, or was it didn't really affect it? The fact that you were in a blended family and going away for the summer and coming back, or did it affect it in a good way, bad way?
I'm trying to remember,
Yeah.
but I think that the fact that I don't really remember is telling in and of itself.
Yeah.
That I feel like, especially because I was such an introverted child in the first place, that it was just, I don't think that it had that great of an effect, or not that big of an effect.
Right.
Much of an impact.
That's the phrase I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And you know what? A lot of things I think about too is that, I was young too, but now, because I just turned, 30 recently, 31
Yes,
now.
you did.
But, turning 30 was kind of like a milestone or whatever. I realized too that a lot of things I've gone through when I was younger, I haven't finished processing. And so still I feel like there's some effects that have taken root, but I still haven't identified it yet. It's still underground if it were a seed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's probably not sprouted or bloomed yet. I'm just kind of still going through the growing process. And right now too, I think that's a huge effect is I don't have kids myself. And I've also started to view all the relationships I had, romantic relationships, with a skewed perspective now. I was so biased. I would not, now, even to this day, I do not want a guy who has kids.
Right. Right.
And it's probably just because of how it turned out. It was, and not it turned out bad, but it turned out with having to deal with so much uncertainty that I felt like I passed some thresholds that I never want to go near again, if that makes sense, emotionally. Mm-hmm. So it's being in that place of uncertainty, how does this kind of work if you kind of already started and then you're starting again and you didn't finish what happened last or whatever. Yeah. The whole thing is just that skewed my, perspective on relationships.
Yeah.
All other types of relationships.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is just where you are. That's how you see it. Yep. So that's cool. That's cool. All right, so let's move on. Okay, how did, I'm going to say it right, growing up in a blended family affect your relationship between your siblings? So either you and Sneeko and Shayla, or between you two and the other three siblings. How do you think that?
Yeah, both ways. You two, y'all's relationship with each other and all the siblings.
Yeah.
So I think that it had a greater impact on me and personally me and the halves.
Okay.
Especially just because of the age difference, but also the actual physical distance. So growing up, I don't think that I was able to get as close to them as normal sibling relationships would be, just because we never saw each other and then plus also the age difference. Yeah. I think now it's a lot easier. I talk to them a lot more now than I did growing up. And I think that has something to do with where they are in life, the stages. So Neil call me from college and we'll talk about life and things like that nature, things that she's experiencing, because I went through that, so I have advice and wisdom to give to her. Whereas before it's just when we were younger, it's just well, we're gonna hang out for 3 months and then I'll see you at a holiday maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely think it affected how like close we were able to become,
Mm-hmm.
whether like as opposed to like living in the same household as someone and like seeing them every day, like garnering that kind of relationship.
Yeah, because since we weren't in the same, we weren't in the same household. We didn't go through things or turning points in our lives together where we could actually witness each other's growth, and the ugly side of us too. You know what I mean? We kind of really only had 3 months to get really ugly, and sometimes we did or whatever, but we kind of went through certain things that made us who we are kind of separately.
Yeah.
And also, I want to add on to that. It was, I think there was kind of like a divide because of the way that each household kind of raised children. So, for example, like mom raised us a little differently than like you guys raised the kids.
Right.
So I think there's like that kind of dynamic as well. Because I think, and I could be wrong, but I feel like you guys might have been just a tad bit more stricter than like mom was with me and Sneakwa. So I feel like
right.
so I feel like there's a lot of things that we were like able to get away with that like, you know, your guys' biological children wouldn't have been able to do. So I think that also created a little bit of a gap, is just because like of how we were raised.
It's the different households, how the different
Right.
households run.
So that
Yeah.
affects your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wondered, and I think you touched on it, but I wondered how, if you're there just for 3 months out of the summer and then you're going back home, you may be thinking, well, we don't really want to get into too many arguments because we only have 3 months together,
Right.
So you don't.
We always try to like make events, like go to like and do things that are fun, and like, oh well, we only get a small amount of time with you, so let's set up this experience or set up this experience. And so it's just like, and I think that's another thing is like I just kind of remember the good because we made it a point that when we were together to do fun things, to do memorable things. And so like if there were ever arguments, like if I was a brat, I like don't remember it. What was an angel? You can say it. It's fine.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that affects the relationships too, because I guess in a way I think that I have this notion that if a family wasn't blended, then everything that happens in each family member's life would occur naturally. And I feel like because of, being in a blended family, it's almost like it's the conditions are changed. And so it's almost like it seems like it's less naturally occurring. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but I just wanted to bring that up to point out how it created a space for us to be intentional to make memories. And that could be something that you don't get naturally. You see what I mean? Like if you were a typical family, everything was, normal, culturally normal, you'd have this lifestyle or whatever. But I think with our blended family, one major effect was since we were intentional to make memories, we did have, a better remembering of our past, if that makes sense. Like you said, Shayla, you only remember the good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Since we were a blended family, we had the opportunity to be intentional with making memories so that we could have good memories. Okay, never mind.
Oh, you're on the right track. I feel like it's like the difference between having like candid photos versus posed photos, where it's just like when you're like looking back, like you like posed for a picture to like commemorate it versus like a candid picture where you're just like naturally laughing. Is that what you're getting at? Kind of?
Yes, it's exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel some things were kind of like, we got the luxury to make it how we want it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Right.
Natural.
All right, girls. Okay. We got just 2 more questions. How did growing up in a blended family affect your adult life? How do you feel like it affects you right now? Well, Sneeko, you already said like it affects how you perceive romantic relationships. Like it's you're like warning, stop. But anything
I
else?
position every red flag, every little detail. You know what I'm saying? I had to have experiments to where I let I didn't pay attention to red flags just to see if I was missing anything type deal. It was weird.
So you think it made you hypersensitive to anything that could go wrong?
Yes, hypersensitive, and also really controlling too. It made me a control freak, and try to, make certain things happen. Or, like I wanted to control the narrative, definitely.
That makes sense.
And as an adult, when I was young, I felt like I was very sensitive and feeling. But as an adult, I feel like I'm so detached and logical about everything, except when I allow my emotions to get in. Because I am a passionate person, so little petty things can make me super explosive. But in day to day, I feel like I'm just become detached and logical.
Okay. How about you, Shayla? Do you feel like it has an effect or not really?
So this also caveats into the next question that you guys are going to ask, but teacher, I followed in your footsteps, so I'm living the same life.
I was thinking about that.
With like Chris and he came in with 2 kids, and I'm not sure how old like me and Sneakle were, but I think that like Dom and Zoe are similarly aged to the ages that Sneakle and I were when.
Yeah, you guys were 7 and 8 when I met you. You were 7 and 8 years old.
Yeah, so they're 11 and 4, or 11 and 7. Wow. And then I'm also, I think, around the same age as you were when you and Dad started. So
yeah. Oh, you're 30. Yeah. I was 20. How old was I? 27.
28.
We got married. I was 27. Was I 20? We got married in 98. I was 27 when we got married. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was April. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's definitely just, so before when you were talking about some of the things that you like learned as like you were going through it, I think that like I understand it more now, like what you were saying, like I get it because I'm kind of going through something similar myself. Or especially just like the whole like letting fear drive you kind of thing. So like Chris and I had to have like actual real conversations about like, okay, what's my role like in their lives? How am I allowed to discipline them? What am I comfortable with? What is he comfortable with how we're raising? Because they live with us full time. So it's like I have to have some firm hand, but then like at the beginning, I kind of let them get away with everything because it's just like, you're not my real mom kind of thing.
Right.
But I think growing up in a blended family kind of helped prepare me for this, just because I think that I can go into it knowing that I kind of experienced the same feelings and emotions that these kids are currently feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's good. So everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, as you said in the opening, only, would you say 46% of families in America are, what's your word?
Traditional or nuclear families.
Nuclear. I like nuclear better.
Yeah.
So it's a real possibility. My point is that although, Sonequa is avoiding that at all costs, but, for people, it's a possibility that you could end up in a blended family.
Right.
Yeah, especially as I'm getting older too. Like, there's not really very many people my age that I would find in just some random situations that don't have kids.
Don't have children. Yeah. The
Like that one guy that held out for you.
And I mean, the thing is too, if they don't have kids, there might be something wrong with them too. So it's kind of the opposite.
Oh my goodness.
There might be something wrong with me too. You know what I mean? So, hey, it's just not a big effort.
Yeah, it's always something.
Well, Shayla, you already touched on this. How would you approach blended family life differently? Sonequa, how do you think what could we have done differently or better?
I agree with what you said at the beginning about doing family counseling before we decided to establish the union. I mean, of course, as a kid, I wouldn't be a part of that part, but so my role in it, what I could have done differently, I feel like, it's kind of hard to say because I'm still processing what exactly happened. You know what I mean? I'm still kind of undecided. Like, I'm reserving judgment for things. When I was younger, I would be very judgmental. And then as I got older and real life scenarios started happening, I learned not to be so judgmental. So as I'm processing it now, as I'm 30 years or, above my 30s, hello. I'm reserving judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we could have done differently, I kind of want to I want to preserve everything that we did do and learn from that. I wouldn't have done anything differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are things that I wish I didn't have to go through, of course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I feel like it went the way that it went,
to go.
and
Right.
I want to learn from that.
All right.
Right. It went the way that it went. Yeah. I think that's tough too. If you would say as a child, what would I have done differently? That's tough.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Well, for Dad, what do you wish we had done differently for Dad and I?
Yeah.
You mentioned counseling, so.
Well, yeah.
But also, yeah,
Well, you want to know something I really liked that you guys did? We had Bible study, and we had movie nights. I loved having movie nights, and you making popcorn and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that it gave us get to know each other, because just going about things day to day. We hold things that we don't think anybody else knows, and we don't think it shows. You know what I mean? That gets kind of like, it feels like an entrapment. Mm-hmm. So those Bible studies and those times that we met and having dinner together, making it a point to have dinner together all the time, I think that was very helpful. So that's something I liked that you did. And then I would if I were to say, what could we have done differently? I just wonder what would have happened if we didn't have those dinners together, if we didn't have Bible study and stuff like that. That's what I think about.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
That's
praise the Lord. That is okay. Y'all know I'm churchy. I know. Can't help it. I can't help it. Okay. That's all the questions we have. You have something you want to add? No? Well, we want to thank you, beautiful ladies, for joining us and answering our questions and helping all of those people out there who are looking for love, and they might find it with somebody who already has kids. Giving them hope that it can last, it can work, and the kids do not have to be crazy when they grow up. They can be well-rounded, productive, beautiful adults. So thank you so much, and we love you.
Love you too.
And that's our take on Saving Us. If you enjoyed what you heard, please click the subscribe button below and share this podcast with a friend. Bye.